2022. What's going on YouTube? Today I bring you a 2022 NFL mock with a very special guest from Pro Football Network and also using the PFN mock draft simulator. We got Ian Cummings in the building. How you doing, Ian?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Draft season in full effect now with the week 18 in the books. So this is our niche. This is where we make stuff happen. So I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I'm very excited. This is my first year that I've done a lot of guys. I've done over 400 guys this year, which is definitely a large league.
He's been putting in work, man. I'm impressed. He sent me his rankings the other day. It's like there's like 30 guys for each position. He's got it down. So
got 10 punters, 6 or
10 punters. Ali would be proud. He would be proud.
Me and him worship Matariza. All right, so obviously, draft order just kind of set to what it is right now, and then obviously with the playoffs, that's just kind of the predictive or whatever. So we're gonna go into this kind of doing each conference. Which conference do you want to do?
It's up to you, man. I'll let you get the first pick. I mean, if you want to take the first pick, go with AFC. I'll do NFC, and yeah, I mean, I used to write for Washington. I'm a Lions fan, so I think, and you're a Broncos guy, so
yeah,
it feels right. It feels right to do that.
All right, we'll do AFC then. So starting off with the number 1 pick, we got the Jaguars. And now I'm seeing a lot of, that this is like clear-cut Aiden Hutchinson, right? And to me, I just don't agree with that. He certainly can be the pick, would be a great pick. But I think it's still really close between him, KT, and Evan Neal. I think it's a lot more close than maybe people are thinking. And I really think Evan Neal would be the right choice. At the end of the day, you need to get some protection for Trevor Lawrence. Cam Robinson's pretty much on his way out. I think that'd be the best choice at the end of the day. But for me personally, I think KT in that defense would just be such a perfect fit. I think he would absolutely thrive there. And putting him next to Josh Allen, you've got potentially one of the scariest young pass rushing duos in the entire league for the next 10 or so years. There's some great other picks here. Maybe Evan Neal's the right pick, but to me, Kayvon Thibodeaux still the second best player in the draft. And so for Jacksonville, I'm going to go Kayvon Thibodeaux at number 1 overall.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, honestly, I know Aiden Hutchinson has kind of commanded the hype, and why wouldn't he, right? Heisman finalist at defensive end, but as a prospect, I'm still in Camp Kayvon too. I think the upside is just higher there. That's not saying that Aiden doesn't have high upside. Like, the guy's going to be a freak as an athlete too. People kind of forget that, but he was on Feldman's Freaks. He had like a 4.6 40, a 36-inch vertical, and like a 6.5 3-cone, which for his size is insane. So he's very athletic too, but Kayvon just has that elite explosiveness and the length to go with it, and so that kind of helps him kind of complete that profile. So I'm in Camp Kayvon too, but honestly, yeah, I think it's between Kayvon and Evan Neal. And just looking at the class, it's a little deeper at edge. So, like, me personally, I'd probably lean Neal, but with those two players, it's like 55-45. It's really close. So you could go either one. And Kayvon is a blue chip difference maker on defense right away. So you need pass rush, most important thing. And I think that segues nicely into my pick for the Lions. I'm going with Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah,
I think that they got the front. They got Aleem McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike. They got some guys up there, but you really need to upgrade that pass rush. I mean, Charles Harris was okay. He had a little bit of a mini breakout, but I don't trust him in anything more than a rotational role. Romeo Okwara coming back from injury, there's some uncertainty there. So I think you need to get a mainstay on the edge, a guy who can really be a spark plug for you. And I look at Aiden Hutchinson, his red hot motor. You look at the athleticism, the hot hands. He's always moving quickly. He's got that energy to him, and also with his size, he gets on inside a little bit. He can generate good power. So I look at that, and really, I think that Aiden Hutchinson. Dan Campbell said he wants a kneecap biter, and I think that very few players embody that better than Hutchinson in this draft, especially in round 1. So Hutchinson to the Lions with the 2nd overall pick. To me, I think you pick the best edge available if you're the Lions, whether it's Kayvon or Aiden Hutchinson. That's what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I picked him to win against Green Bay because, like, at the end of the day, you're getting yourself an elite pass rusher, right? And I think another part where I kind of prefer Kayvon though, just above him in this situation, is because first off, like, I just like the idea of like him staying in Michigan with Hutchinson, but also the fact that they're two players that, like, I think Aiden Hutchinson can work in a 3-4, and KT could definitely work in a 4-3. Except I think I prefer KT in a 3-4 as like that outside linebacker, and Hutchinson as like a 4-3 end. So they're both extremely good players that would work in both systems. I just think the fits work a bit better here in this situation.
Yeah, and I agree. And the good thing with the Lions is, like, with Aleem McNeil being that nose, you can use hybrid fronts, you can move him around a little bit. So if you want Aiden Hutchinson to be that stand-up edge rusher, which I think he's best in that stand-up role, he's got his hands up right away, so we can just kind of move forward and kind of shock guys a little bit. But he's versatile. He can go with two hands in the dirt too. So I think it's something that either way their trades are going to translate pretty well. So
yes. And then moving on to number 3 overall, we got the Texans. And I really want to go Kyle Hamilton here. I mean, Ian, of all people, knows that I'm a huge Kyle Hamilton fan. He's my number 1 player in the class. I mean, I don't care that he's a safety. For me, he's the most talented guy. It's really tempting to go here. And truly, he could go. Because, again, he's just that kind of a game changer. But for me, I think if you're picking number 3, right, the main reason I end up going with Evan Neal here is because when you had Davis Mills, who was playing pretty good football actually there at the end of the season, I mean, he was showing some nice things despite not having really many weapons to deal with. I mean, he had Danny Amendola, who was kind of going okay at the end of the year, and the offensive line was fine. But for a guy like Davis Mills right now, you might potentially have something there. Deshaun Watson's not going to be a Texan ever again. He's not going to play another snap there. You got to look forward building the future, and I think a fantastic point to start with building up that offense is with a guy like Evan Neal, who, worst case scenario, is probably a Pro Bowl guard. And that just shows you how talented of a tackle he is. The fact that this dude's like, 6'7", I'm pretty sure he's like, 300, around there?
360.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's like, yeah, not 300, but he's a huge guy, and he moves so incredibly well despite being just this behemoth of a person. So, like I said, worst case scenario is a Pro Bowl guard, but this guy has legitimate All-Pro level tackle in him, and so I think that's just a fantastic place to start kind of working this offense back up for the Texans here at number 3.
Yeah, when in doubt, upgrading the offensive line is never a bad decision, especially when you have a young quarterback. And, Davis Mills was a guy I wasn't as high on. I was high on the upside, but low on the floor, because I thought, at Stanford, there were times when he didn't really know how to use his eyes, and he lead safety to the ball a lot, and I thought that he was still kind of a work in progress from progression from a, surveying the field standpoint. But to his credit, he really showed a lot of growth over the season in Houston. Enough where I can say, especially with this QB class, like, hey, let's see what we got for another year. Let's try and incubate his development. So I think that's the right call. I think with Marcus Cannon being a free agent this year after kind of missing some of the season to injury, you could maybe get him back cheap, and you have a really deep, versatile tackle group with Laramie Tunsil on the left. Evan Neal has right tackle experience. Move him out to the right. Titus Howard, maybe moving the guard. There's a lot of talent to move around with Evan Neal, and I think having talent up there to protect Davis Mills is that's paramount, right? So I look at that and say, if you're going to try and maximize Mills' talent, the best thing you can do is make sure that he's safe up center, make sure he's protected. So you're getting nothing but an endorsement from me for that one. Now with the Jets, I was thinking about Evan Neal because Morgan Moses being a free agent, Mekhi Becton, his long-term outlook a little uncertain. So, I was thinking about him for the Jets, but you took him, so I gotta improvise now.
Well, except you're not picking the Jets, though.
Oh yeah, that's right. I thought we were alternating. My bad. Well, I know we're doing the divisions. I got into this alternating mode for some reason. All right.
No, it's cool. You got the next pick after that.
The Giants. God.
You got the Giants twice.
And the Panthers. God. Can we switch?
And the Falcons.
It's too late to switch. My goodness. No, it's fine. It's fine. You go forward with the Jets. Go forward.
Yeah, with the Jets, I mean, Evan Neal would have been a great pickup, But, for New York here, Evan Neal's not an option. So, at this point, I think you got to pretty much focus on the offense, or not the offense, the defense. Don't know how to mix that up. You got to focus on the defense here. It was plain and simple horrible. I'm pretty sure they let up over, I want to say it was like 600 points this year or something, and it was pretty far and away the worst defense in the NFL. And so I think you in some way you have to upgrade that, and you might even be looking edge rusher potentially here at number 4, especially if for some reason, right, it's not going to happen, but if KT or Aiden Hutchinson did somehow fall, that'd be the pick, especially after cutting Carl Lawson, right?
Yeah, the thing you have to think about with the Jets is you got the other pick at 10, right? So like if there's a position where there's talent there that might not be there at 10, and there's another one that you're kind of thinking about, and you think someone is going to be there at 10, like. Let's say you're thinking of a corner and David Ojabo here. Like, hey, maybe Ojabo lasts until 10, so we can wait on that, get a corner. So, that pick at number 10 is kind of a safety. It's kind of a buffer for them, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think I already know where I do want to go with 10, though. And so here at number 4, you just look at the teams ahead, right? The Giants, the Panthers, the Falcons, the Broncos. These are all teams that could be looking at defense potentially, but especially safety. And you already know I'm going with my favorite prospect in the class, Kyle Hamilton. People might look at it and be like, they might think that it's going to be like a Jamal Adams case scenario, and it's just simply not because, and maybe this is a hot take, I think coming out of college, Kyle Hamilton's pretty heads and shoulders above Adams in terms of coverage ability. Jamal Adams, he's a great run defender. He's probably the best blitzing safety in the league. But when it comes to coverage, he's never been near an elite safety, but especially recently, just never been a good coverage safety. Kyle Hamilton has such insane size, similar to Evan Neal, but in different respects. Insane size for the position, and yet still moves so incredibly well. I love the athleticism. I love his range. I love his versatility even, because he can be similar to Jamal Adams in some respects, where he is still a great run defender. He can play corner. He can play linebacker. He could really play edge if he wanted to. They're not going to, right? But he's one of those guys you can bring in down there if you need to. And that was one of the things that I kind of wasn't a huge fan of about him in earlier years at Notre Dame, was he was never like the best. It seemed like when he was trying to blitz the quarterback, he had a really big issue blitzing the correct gaps. And it really seems like since then he's kind of fixed that for me. And so at the end of the day, he's the best prospect in the class for me, because I truly just don't have many things I can just say bad about him. And for a Jets team that just needs some sort of defensive help, I think getting the best player in the class at 4 is pretty good for them.
Yeah, the defense is pretty bare. I mean, Bryce Hall had a breakout year, so. But, I mean, aside from him and aside from a few other guys that, showed promise, right? I mean, you got to get a blue chipper, and that's exactly what Hamilton is. So you're getting no complaints from me there. Moving on to the other New York team. It's crazy how bad New York football is, man. It's tough. It's tough. But
especially the Giants.
I know, dude. The Giants are. I mean, at least they fired Joe Judge, right? But that front office is still a mess. So
quarterback sneak on 3rd and 9.
I know, dude. Oh my God, that was painful to watch, man. But anyway, we're gonna try and fix it to the best of our ability here, and we got 2 picks. So I was thinking offensive line, and we're gonna have to address it with one of these picks because it's been horrible, for years on end. And if you're gonna commit to Daniel Jones for one more year, at least give him a chance to be successful, right? Like I'm not gonna say he's been great. He has not been great at all, but when you're running behind that offensive line, it's going to limit your productivity a little bit. So I think, investing in that front unit is going to be a very good decision. But on the flip side, I think you can go to the defense too and get an edge rusher opposite Azeez Ojulari, who had some nice moments as a rookie. So fix that unit and insulate the pass rushing potential. So I'm going to go with George Karlaftis here. David Ojabo is a potential option here too, and I actually have Ojabo rated over Karlaftis. But to me, Karlaftis feels like more of the Giants edge rusher. I think he's a little more powerful. You look at Ojulari, he was able to generate a lot of power with his really long arms. I think that, Karlaftis has that same capacity. I think he has more power capacity. He's more that, Ojulari, it was more of a feature for him. He still had that bend and explosiveness, but yeah, and he could get low, but he had those 34-inch arms, which helped him a lot. Karlaftis is literally like, he's actually like a legit power rusher, which is fun because he actually has really good closing speed and athleticism too. He can bend a little bit. He's got really heavy hands. So, I really like that fit opposite Ojulari. I think they complement each other well. And, hey, it's going to strengthen your pass rush. And that's what you need, especially if you're going to try and maximize the talent on the back end if you're the Giants. So, I think that's a good pick. You go offensive line for that one too, but you got another pick in two selections, so we'll have to wait long to do that. Moving on to the Panthers, I'm going to go quarterback here. I know they have a lot of needs and not a lot of picks. It kind of sucks, right? But I can't stomach going another season with Sam Darnold. I just can't. Just get a guy in the system and just try and insulate him as best as you can. It's not going to be pretty because their offensive line is kind of terrible right now, and they don't have any picks to fix it. But I'd rather get the quarterback, and at number 6, you kind of have your pick of the litter. And I know both of our QB1s right now, tentatively, is Kenny Pickett. I'm not going to dig myself in there. Any other class, it'd be like QB4 or QB5. But I do like what he has to work with. I think he's a very slept-on athlete. He's very agile in the pocket. He can move. He can create with his legs. Very good off-script. Really, really nice off-platform ability to be able to generate velocity off-platform and throw with accuracy on the run is something that he's really good at. His mechanics are pretty nice too. I mean, like there are some instances where he's a little off base, but he's very good at snapping back into rhythm. Snapping back into his cylinder. He's got that muscle memory with his mechanics. For some guys, it's a lot harder. Like Desmond Ridder, like he processes pretty well, but just can't always get to that base. But Kenny Pickett does a great job of snapping back when he needs to and loading his hips and throwing. So, and on top of that, he sees the field well. He can manipulate safeties. Not the strongest arm in the world, but I think it's strong enough to be a productive NFL starter. So I'm going to go with Kenny Pickett for the Panthers. I think that, ultimately it's not a great situation to be in for any quarterback, but you got to get away from Sam Darnold. I mean, I don't think it's going to be good for your wide receivers, developing them. To have Darnold in there still, I think getting a guy like Pickett, who's pretty malleable under pressure, can evade the pocket, can withstand adversity to a degree with his skill set, and he's a leader. He's experienced. He'll be able to kind of roll in. So I like that one. Moving on to the Giants now. Going back to the offensive line. This is a tough one. There's 3 offensive linemen that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Charles Cross, but I think Andrew Thomas is the left tackle, and Charles Cross has most of his experience at left too. So you're looking at transition to right. Kenyon Green could be a nice interior blocker for them. I know that's definitely where he projects best. The athleticism, the natural balance and core strength, and he's got some Mahler moments too. And then Tyler Linderbaum, the center, is the other one.
Go
Icky.
Icky.
You look at centers, man. Creed Humphrey went at the bottom of round 2 last year, which was crazy. So
Go Icky.
Yeah, you could go Icky too. You could go Icky. I love the upside, man. I'm not quite in the top 10 prospect camp just yet, just because I still think there's some stuff to clean up in pass pro, but he did take a leap. He did take a leap in that department, which is good to see. You love to see that positive progression. I still think there's a few things to clean up. Some more consistency can be had, but Icky's definitely an option. Shoot, man, I don't know. I'm blanking right now. I think I'm gonna go with Charles Cross, and I think the reason is, ultimately you got to get that tackle situation set. I think there's some guards in the middle rounds that you can, get and potentially be starters. I just finished my scouting report about Marquise Hayes from Oklahoma, and I was actually pretty impressed. He's got some stuff to clean up too, but he could be a decent starter. So there's some nice value deals in this class at guard. I think at tackle too, you can move those guys to guard as well. So I think I want to get the top end talent, and Charles Cross is actually rated higher than Kenyon Green on my board by a little bit. He's he's athletic. He's really light on his feet. He's kind of graceful around the edge, which is nice. But then also, I think in the past he was a little wiry, a little lighter. But he kind of strengthened his base a little bit this year. Very good at recovering and kind of planting his arm and kind of, walling you off as a rusher. So he's got really nice hands too, and which is surprising because he's a redshirt sophomore, so he doesn't have much experience. But he's well beyond his age in that department. And then on top of that, he's strong, he's athletic. I think you can move him to right tackle. I think he could feasibly make the transition. We saw Penei Sewell make it, and he ended up, developing into that role. He was better at left for some moments, but was able to kind of take it in stride. So I think as long as you have good coaching, which again for the Giants is not something that they're known for, but you get this transition right, I think that Charles Cross can do it. So ultimately he's the top talent at offensive line on my board right now. So I'm gonna go with Charles Cross for the Giants and get that offensive line rebuild started. And now we got the Falcons, man. And honestly, I think there's one fit that I really like. There's a couple fits. I'm looking at the defensive line to start. You could go Icky. You could go Kenyon Green. You could go offensive line because Caleb McGarry has not worked out at all for them. But I'm thinking you could go Andrew Booth too. He's my CB1. I know you're lower on him, but I do like the athleticism a lot. I think he's progressed over the course of the year. And, the instincts of the catch point are really hard to teach. So I like Andrew Booth. I like Derek Stingley. I think having either of those guys opposite AJ Terrell, that's a potential lockdown duo. But I'm probably going to go – it's between DeMarvin Leal and David Ojabo for me. And I think, Leal's a fun one. You can move him around a little bit. In Dean Pease's scheme, that's pretty fun to think about. I'm going to go with Ojabo, though. I really like the potential there, the upside. To me personally, like there's a realm in which you have him rated as a higher prospect than Aiden Hutchinson. I don't think that's out of the question, man. I think he's got higher upside than Hutchinson. You look at his explosiveness off the line, his length. He can generate really good power with that. But the most exciting thing with Ojabo is that he really progressed over the course of the year. Like at the very beginning of the year, he was kind of a raw jack linebacker who played off ball a lot, and kind of came off the field a lot. He was kind of a rotational guy. And then once he got his opportunity, man, he took hold of it. And every week it seemed like he had another move in his arsenal, right? So he's clearly trending up. He's productive with his traits alone. So imagine when he refines his game even more, the sky's the limit for this guy. He's got all the tools in the world. So I'm going to go with David Ojabo. The Falcons have virtually no pass rush. So, this is a good place to start the rebuild there.
Yeah, and just a quick reaction, because, Karlaftis, that's definitely a guy I'm lower on, and that. I had one video where he was a late second rounder, right? And someone especially got, really mad at me. And I definitely get a lot of the hype behind Karlaftis, but it's just, for me, I just don't see that same type of elite potential that some of these other pass rushers do. He's up there in terms of where he is right now with a lot of these guys. I think he's on a similar level to KT and Aiden Hutchinson. But when it comes to long term, I just don't see him ever being where these guys can be. So that's just why I'm kind of lower. Pickett, I love him. I kind of low key think he's kind of a Cam Newton in a way, just kind of not a very strong arm, but he's definitely not, again, I'm not saying he is Cam Newton, because definitely not as athletic, but I've liked some of the running that I've seen from him. And overall, just, I think he could be a nice fit for the Panthers. Cross, also someone I'm not as high on, but that dude's ceiling is, I think, pretty high. Just alone, that's a great pickup.
The big thing with Cross, again, kind of similar to Ojabo, was the development. I looked at his week 1 showing this year, and I wasn't very impressed. But I came back to him later in the year, and he actually made a ton of strides. So, again, seeing that linear growth for these guys who have sky-high ceilings, that makes it easier to project that growth into the NFL. So I think, at his ceiling can be a lockdown tackle. And, those guys are worth their weight in gold.
Yeah, and same thing with the Ojabo, though. The progression that he had was really nice. And I think he has more potential than Hutchinson, personally. I wouldn't take him over him, but I think he does have more potential, though. But that's why it's interesting to do these mocks with you, because Karlaftis, Cross, and probably even Ojabo would have never gone this high in any of my mocks. So now I'm sitting here at number 9 with the Broncos, and I've still got a good amount of picks and people to take.
And one note too, with this MDS, because I feel I'm on the group that kind of adjusts the rankings for this too. So some of these guys, Kenyon Green is not a top 20 guy for me. He's just outside the top 20, but you think about where teams are going to value them. With the MDS, you have to take gamification into account. So you might not have Karlaftis as high, But the reason he's so high in this is because, that's just where the buzz is, right? Like
Yeah.
when he tests, people are going to look at that combined with the power and say, like, hey, this guy's not. Something where, with the MDS, you have to decouple it from your personal rankings a little bit. We like to think about where will teams value these guys? And that's kind of, it's something that kind of ties it into the real world scenarios. So.
Yeah. Also, sorry about it. My voice is getting hoarse for some reason.
You're good, dude. My voice is, I don't know what's going on, man. I mean, I think it was that I had some Chipotle coming home from the workout, so my throat's parched, something like that. I don't know, man.
I got water too, but it's not doing a lot for me. But yeah, moving on with 9 though for the Broncos. I'm really tempted in a lot of different places here. I am tempted with like a Kemikwanu. I think he'd be a nice fit at like right tackle, just because of what he's shown this year. Like I think he's definitely one of the more versatile guys in this class for me. So whether they want to play him at tackle or guard or wherever, I think he'd work out good. Or even though like a guy like Cushenberry showed some pretty decent development this year, Linderbaum might be worth the pick because he's just that good of a center. But really, I mean, I think really for me, DeMarvin Leal being here at number 9, like the Broncos low-key have a need at defensive interior because Mike Purcell's fine, but he's not that game changer. Draymond, he's fine. He's not that game changer. And Harris, he might be the best pass defending defensive lineman in the NFL, but he's fine. He's not anything special. DeMarvin Leal, who I'm going to take here at 9, has that special ability. He's just that kind of an athlete. And he has like Aaron Donald. I know this is wild to say, right? Because Aaron Donald is probably the best defensive player maybe we've ever seen. He has legitimate Aaron Donald-ness to his game. And I think he has that similar sort of upside. Is he going to be Aaron Donald? Probably not. But I think it's well worth taking for a Broncos team that, like, they don't really have any elite pass rushers right now, especially since, like, Bradley Chubb's always hurt now. Getting a guy like DeMarvin Leal, who even as an interior player could be like this elite level pass rusher for you, I think would be great for Denver. And I think 9's a steal for Leal.
He can go out on the edge too.
And he can play like that end too.
Yeah, you can put him at 3 tech next to Mike Purcell, or you can put him out at the edge. Like there's a lot of versatility there. So. Yeah,
so I think it's a great pick and would be great for this defense. And then also we should start like speeding up a bit more though, because I like going in depth with a lot of these picks, but we're only 9 picks in.
You can go in depth with the 10th one. That's a good cutoff.
That's a good cutoff. Yeah.
We'll do the speed run after that.
With the Jets again. Now I already picked Kyle Hamilton, right? And I kind of had a plan earlier because I was looking at the next picks, and I really had 2 guys in mind for the Jets. And I was looking and I was like, Giants, Panthers, Falcons, Broncos. I think those teams could all go defense. And look, defense, offense, defense, right? So I took a defensive player in Kyle Hamilton, and instead I'm looking to the offensive side of the ball now. And that's because I really, 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 really like the idea of Jameson Williams to the Jets. I think the dude's a game changer at receiver. And you really saw that in the national championship that like Alabama could not target past like 5 yards downfield because Jameson Williams wasn't out there. They just simply couldn't. And Bryce Young was having trouble against, yes, a very good defense, but at the end of the day, like Jameson Williams was still, four catches for like 65 yards before he got hurt. And like, wasn't it the first quarter or something? Yeah, the ACL tear, I don't know if it's a tear or not, but either way, he hurt his ACL. That sucks, obviously.
Yeah, it's a tear.
Yeah, and that sucks, obviously. But that dude played fantastic this year. I mean, he showed like some of that like Ohio State that he had in him in terms of route running, right? The dude's athletically great. Just all around. I mean, he's wide receiver number 1. I mean, I know for a while I had Olave as 1, but for a while now, Williams moved up into that number 1 spot just because I think across the board, he just really averages out as the best receiver in every category for me. Even just to the point of like, I just like his size. Like it's just all around for me. Really one of those just perfect receivers to where, yeah, he's not like Julio, right? But he's still a fantastic receiver. And for a Jets team that just, Zach Wilson has no one to throw to. And he showed some really nice progression there at the end of the year as well. I think Zach Wilson is the future for New York, and you need to get him some weapons, and Jameson Williams would be awesome for that.
I think, not just Jameson Williams himself, but the impact he has on the offense too. You look at, before and after when he was in that Georgia game. Before, not only was he getting plays downfield, but having to account for him and draw so many guys back opens up a big cushion for guys to work underneath. It opens up opportunities for other guys. So having a player that can, one player that can stress the defense that much, can open up opportunities for guys like Elijah Moore, Braxton Berrios, and Corey Davis. So it's one of those things where, he's an X factor, but the mere presence of him on the field really puts the defense in the bind. It can help free up your other guys. So I like that a lot. I hope he gets healthy, man, because he's a great player and sounds like everyone rave reviews off the field too. So he's a rare player, like you said. I mean, I think this is by no means a comp, but for his style, like his brand of speed, I had to go back to James Lofton, the Hall of Famer from the Packers. Like looking at him, that 6'3", that long frame, he's not one of those energetic, speedy guys who's only a gadget player. Like his long strides cover a ton of ground with ruthless efficiency, and it's a rare thing. You don't see that very often. But then he can also sink his hips really well into his routes. So he's got sky high potential. Again, hope he gets healthy. From what I've seen, it was a clean tear, so which is good, because you can just do surgery. If it's not clean, if there's complications, that's when it can get rocky. But if it's a clean tear, should be good surgery. Should be able to get back in 6 to 9 months, and we probably won't be ready for the start of the 2021 season. But you don't want to rush back if you're James. Make sure you get 200%. So,
yeah, and for a team like the Jets, where it's like, you're not going to be competing next year anyways, like just having him for the future would just be great. Yeah. So
exactly. All right. After pick 10, we get long-winded, man. Me especially. I'm sorry. I don't know what it is when you're a draft analyst. You're required to talk at least.
You're talking what you know about.
Exactly. And that's the good thing, man. Like when you know this stuff, it just fires off the tongue. Like you can tell with me and you, like it just goes, man. So it's fun. But all right, we're in the rapid fire round.
You gotta zoom.
We're gonna finish out round 1 with the rapid fire. So Washington football team. I'm going quarterback. There's no other option for you. You started Taylor Heineke for 15 freaking games. I don't care, what you're trying to do. You need to invest early capital in the quarterback position and get a guy who has actual physical upside. And I'm not saying Dwayne Haskins didn't, but I think Matt Corral has more physical upside. He's a much better athlete. He's a really good creator on the ground. He's got an elastic arm. Needs to stop taking needless hits and needs to kind of up his processing a little bit. He's a little inconsistent there, but he's shown he has the capacity, which for me is enough. He's a tough leader. Ron Rivera would love that. So Matt Corral is your QB of the future. Washington moving on to the Vikings. I'm going to go with the quarterback here too. New regime. I think that, I think they trade Kirk Cousins, honestly. And it won't be super easy because you got to offload that contract. But I think Kirk Cousins is a substantially better quarterback than Jared Goff, who got traded too. So I think someone who's looking to compete is going to trade for him. And, that's your opportunity if you're the Vikings to reset, get a guy, build around him for the next 4 years on that rookie deal, and open up your contention window. So I'm going to go with Carson Strong here. It's Pickett, Strong, and Corral in my top 3. So with Strong, it's just, the knee is the big thing. How durable is it? Because he does have the injury history. But, if that checks out for the pocket passer mold, I usually like mobile guys, but, if you're a pocket passer, you got to check a few boxes for me. You got to have a strong arm. You got to be poised in the pocket, and you got to be able to process. Right. And then you've also got to be able to navigate the pocket too, like, manipulate those lanes and step up and not evade rushers, but, manage your space so that you're extending your time in the pocket, allowing yourself more time. I think Carson Strong can do that. I think
he does all that very well.
Yeah, exactly. So for the pocket passer, like if you're going to be a pocket passer, you have to do this. Strong does that. So I think if you're the Vikings, if his knee checks out, take him.
Yeah, and you're giving him weapons too, Jefferson, Thielen.
Oh yeah, Carson Strong with Justin Jefferson that'll be scary.
I think maybe we could see a draft day trade with Kirk Cousins. You know who I think they would trade him to though? Pittsburgh.
I could see that. Yeah.
All right.
Tomlin looking to win now. I can see that.
Yeah. 13. We got the Browns. I'm not going quarterback for all you Baker Mayfield haters out there. It's just, come on. Like, he's playing with the torn labrum. I don't care if it's in his throwing shoulder or not. I mean, tear your labrum and go throw a football 40 yards accurately while having some of the best athletes in the world rush you with no one to throw to and your offensive line constantly hurt with bad play calling. And yet everybody wants to move on from Baker. To me, it's a little ridiculous. So instead, we're going to actually help Baker instead of replace him. You know who I would like to help Baker out? Garrett Wilson. Now, he's my wide receiver number 3. I actually prefer Drake London over him, just in pure terms of, like, that's just what I prefer as a receiver. Is just more of that physical, deep catch type guy. But Garrett Wilson is a fantastic receiver. I mean, he's an elite route runner because that's pretty much what you expect coming out of Ohio State. For a while, I had Chris Olave over him, but honestly, with Wilson, I just think he's kind of better in a lot of categories while being the same. I think when it comes to just pure actual catching, right, the way he adjusts to catches and some of the catches he makes, they're not Odell level, but they're just pretty phenomenal to watch the way he really just adjusts to a lot of those great plays, which is part of the reason why I'm not as big a fan of CJ Stroud, just because I feel like, his receivers really help him. And, Garrett Wilson does that as he gets open and he does it quick and good. And so I really like that. So for a team like the Browns, which a lot of their guys struggled to get open this year, getting a guy that can do that for you, I think would be great. So I'm going to go Garrett Wilson here. Then moving on to 14.
He's on wide receiver 1, so I have no points there.
Oh, yeah. Moving on to 14, we got the Ravens. And, with the Ravens, I'm tempted for offensive line because there's a lot of good guys that I'm high on. Linderbaum is still here. Their center, who was their center? I'm forgetting his name.
Makari, Bradley Bozeman.
No, Bozeman plays guard, and Makari moved to tackle and was actually pretty solid this year. I'm forgetting their center, but whoever it was, I do know that it was a bit better than last year, so I don't know if center's quite the same need. Kenyon Green and Icky, though, I mean, they're very versatile, good players for an offensive line that needs help. At the same time, though, the Ravens, Jimmy Smith obviously hurt this year. Marcus Peters hurt this year. Jimmy Smith getting older. And Marlon Humphrey, still great, but if you're losing potentially those other guys, and Humphrey didn't look fantastic at times this year, you need some corner of the future. And being that no corners have gone off the board yet, at 14, I'm going to take a steal. And with my opinion, the best corner of the class, Derek Stingley. I know this is a guy that people are starting to drop on, but I get it that the last couple years at LSU have not been fantastic compared to his rookie season and stuff, and he's been hurt. But I really do think that he still has that rookie, early sophomore form that he showed at first. I mean, there's no debating that he's a great athlete, right? For me, he's maybe the best athlete in the class, and it might not be close, to be honest. He's an incredible athlete, and that's the one thing I want to stress the most. But for me, with corner, I think you really want to take those guys with really good traits and just let them develop into something good. It's very rare that you're going to get yourself a Jalen Ramsey, a Pat Surtain, where they just kind of come straight out of college and turn into an elite corner, right? I don't expect that to happen with any of these corners, despite it being a fantastic class. Stingley's my number 1, though, just because I think he has the highest upside. I think he still has that high-level play in him, and he's probably the most athletic player in the class. So, for the Ravens, maybe corners it's not really a need for them at all right now. But in terms of the future and a team that is going to be good, right? They had so many injuries this year, and they still went 8-9, right? Or were they not 8-9, 9-8, whatever they were? They're going to be a good team next year. Getting an elite player like this for the future, I just think is the best case with the Ravens here.
Yeah, and you brought up a lot of good points. Mainly, just get a talented guy and let them become good. As long as he has that high ceiling, and I think that's a good segue to my pick for the Eagles at 15, the next corner on the board. My personal, he's in the running for CB1. I haven't locked it in yet, but Andrew Booth too. I mean, you look at him. Stingley's an elite athlete. I think Booth is too. Booth has that fluidity, that super smooth movement, matching guys. I think he's a good processor too. He can really click and closes very nicely in the running game. You look at his run support, and it's a pleasure to watch. And obviously the catch point too, very instinctive, he can make those acrobatic deflections, and very disruptive. He's got that really large disruption window. So I think the athleticism, the instincts, and then the positive progression trend for me, it's kind of similar to Derek's thing. I think they're both very high upside corners, and I think that if you're the Eagles, get him opposite Darius Slay and let him roll. So I'm going with Andrew Booth here for the 15th pick, and then 16th pick, I'll go with Nakobe Dean. I'll stay on the defensive side of the ball. If you're the Eagles, you could use some linebackers to run fit for you, and I think Dean is a very good fit for being the commander of that defense. I think you look at him; he's my LB1. It's him and then Devin Lloyd. But Dean for me is he's explosive. He processes so quickly, man. He's such a good communicator. And then his size. Some people might say that he's undersized, and they won't like him for that, but he really compensates with his physicality. He takes on blocks with ferocity, man. So I love Dean's playing style. I think he projects well against the run and the pass. So I'm gonna go with him to be that commander of the Eagles defense.
Yeah, I think he can be like like a more physical, like Devin White, even something like that. But yeah, I like that pick though. I don't know if the Eagles would make a good pick like that, but with the Chargers at number 17. This is kind of a tough pick, right? Because the Chargers are obviously a very good team, and they should have made the playoffs this year. I mean, they've got a great quarterback. They've got a great running back, great receiving unit. They had a fantastic offensive line this year. Really what let them down at the end of the year was their front seven. Which is kind of weird when you have Joey Bosa and Uchenna Nwasu, or however you say his name, and he didn't play as much, but Linval Joseph, right? That's not what you would expect to be the weak link in the team. But even Brandon Staley said earlier today that that's their main focus going into this offseason is their front seven, because that's what let them down this year. And so I think you really got to put your focus there for either some sort of a pass rusher or a defensive tackle or something. I'm intrigued by the idea of Jordan Davis here. He maybe is a weird fit because I think he does work a bit better as a 3-4 defensive tackle, in my opinion. I just think he'd fit that role better of being just the dominating presence there in the middle. Except I'm not going to go that route, though. I'm going to go with my edge number 3. Actually, edge number 4 now, because Ojabo did move up over him. But edge number 4 in Kingsley Enagbare. It might be a Enagbare. I've heard that pronunciation. But I'm pretty big on Enagbare. I think the dude has a very high-level play and a very high ceiling. He's just one of those players where he uses his power so well. And another one of those guys where I think he can fit in kind of that 3-4 or 4-3 system. And so as a 3-4, outside linebacker, I think, and I really do think they should still put Kenneth Murray at outside linebacker. And honestly, I kind of forgot he existed this year because I think that's what they should have used him as, and they didn't. So if you're not going to get him to do it, I think you got to get someone, and I think Enagbare could fit that role great, and just give them that elite presence besides Bosa that they just didn't have this year, and it's what let them down. So I'm going to go edge here for the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I like both of those. Jordan Davis to the Chargers is one of my personal favorite fits in the entire draft, just because, getting that, I know Linval Joseph is getting older, he's kind of past his prime, so getting that guy who can eat up those double teams, two gap really well and free up other guys in the line could have a kind of domino effect. But by the same virtue, getting a guy like Enagbare who can match Joey Bosa off the edge, that's great too. So moving to the Saints, I'll use 5 seconds on this. Chris Olave.
Yes.
He fits really well. Such a smooth receiver. He's got the speed and explosiveness to use space really well. And then, at the catch point, I like Wilson a little bit better against contact, but Olave is very good at tracking the ball downfield. Jameis Winston, my go-to move is keep Jameis Winston because he had some nice moments when he was on the field when he was healthy, and just let him work with Olave. So. Yeah,
I think he played pretty great, when he did play earlier this season.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I just noticed I have another pick. All right, let's do this. What did I do? I did corner and then linebacker for the Eagles. So, shoot.
Drake London. All
right, hold your horses. Let's see what we got first at other positions here. I could go Daxton Hill. I actually really like that fit. Being able to go into the slot and go into single high 2 for Jonathan Gannon's defense. that's an exciting one. I'm thinking about that. You could look at edge too, but I'm not super high on the guys that are left. So wide receivers deep. I think Drake London and Devontae Smith is a pretty fun combo. So you know what? We're fans of fun here. Let's do it, Drake London.
Drake London, good pick. My receiver number 2, personally.
Yeah, he's in my top 5, top 3. He's up there. At what he does well, he does very well.
DK Metcalf Jr. Just gonna say that. So I'm gonna spend 2 seconds on this pick. Tyler Linderbaum. Yeah, they have some other needs, but Tyler Linderbaum for me is probably gonna end up being a top 5 prospect in the class. Simply not gonna be picked top 5 just because he's a center, but this is about the best center that you're ever gonna get out of the draft. I just don't know what else to say to that. I mean, you just pull up the clip of him wrestling Tristan Wirfs and really dominating him at the end of the day to just truly see that, yeah, he's an undersized, but it's one of those classic stories of, size doesn't matter because this dude just dominates players, even that are much bigger than him. And so, yeah, with Linderbaum, in the Steelers, Kendrick Green wasn't fantastic this year. For a team that's rebuilding their offensive line and whoever they're going to have, I get quarterback could definitely be the pick here. I like the idea of, Sam Howell, right? Not really Malik Willis, but I like the idea of Sam Howell. Linderbaum's a better pick here for me because he's just such a great center, and that's such a big steal for the Steelers. Steal for the Steelers. So I'm going to go Linderbaum here at 20. Then at 21.
Oh, yeah. You got the next. I got back in the alternate. don't mind me. I'm out of it.
Then at 21, we got the Patriots, and I would have really loved to go on Drake London here, because I think that would have been great getting a receiver for them. They got Jacoby Myers, but really just not much else. Other than that, I mean, if you're the Patriots, I don't think safety is as big a need because people are thinking with Devin McCourty getting older that they need a replacement, but they already got a replacement because Adrian Phillips was fantastic this year. And I forget the other guy's name, but they have another really good safety there too. Kyle Duggar. No, it's not even him, but I was going to say Kyle Duggar was pretty solid this year too. But either way, they've got a nice, solid young safety room. Corner, potentially a need. I think they'll retain J.C. Jackson, but, could still definitely be a need. Maybe they go edge. But at the end of the day, I mean, I just think get a receiver for Mac Jones because he's got some weapons, but it'd be nice to have, a really good weapon. And I'm really tempted to go Treylon Burks here, but, he could work, right? The Patriots like their slot guys, and Treylon Burks is a fantastic slot receiver. I just kind of like David Bell to the Patriots a bit more. I just think as an overall receiver, I am higher on David Bell. The dude's Ohio State level in terms of his route running to me, and makes some great catches, especially on the sidelines. And so it's just kind of a guy where Treylon Burks might work out really nicely, but I'm just higher on Bell, and I think he'd just be more useful to the Patriots right now. It would just fit with Mac Jones a bit better. So I got David Bell to the Patriots. Number 22 to the Dolphins. Would have loved if Tyler Linderbaum fell here. That would have been a great pick, but he doesn't. The pick's offensive line. I shouldn't have to explain why. They were pretty easily the worst offensive line in the NFL this year. And it's really between Kenyon Green or Icky for me. Both some pretty versatile guys, but at the end of the day, I think, like you said, Kenyon Green maybe translates to guard a bit better. He can play tackle. I mean, he showed this year that he can play tackle. But with a guy like Icky, I think he's more of that tackle first and then guard if he doesn't work at tackle. Plus, I just think as a player, I prefer Icky as, just the power guy, and just overall, I think he's a bit more ready to start, but also just a higher floor. So at the end of the day, I'm going to go Ikem Ekwonu here to the Dolphins at 22. Get some offensive line help for Tua, which I do believe Tua is the future, by the way. Maybe a hot take, but I do think he is the future. And then the Raiders at 23. I'm kind of thinking maybe Treylon Burks here, but they have some decent slot guys, though. I think Treylon Burks works good as a downfield receiver, too, but I just don't know if he necessarily fits the Raiders the best. They still need a star at defensive tackle, and I do like the idea of Jordan Davis. Except that, like I said, I just prefer him as a 3-4 D tackle. There's not really any edge guys I'd like here. Corner, Nate Hobbs, we'll see. I don't know if he's is he out of trouble or not. I'm not sure. I know he got arrested.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect the status of the team. I think it was just a minor thing.
All right, because he's been great this year, and so is Casey Hayward. They just drafted like 3 safeties. They could still use a safety, but Jordan Battle, I don't know if I'd take him this early. So I'm going to go with Devin Lloyd here. They got a lot of linebackers that are out on their contracts soon. I'm pretty sure all 3 of their starting linebackers are on contract years this next year. Plus, they just don't really have that. Corey Littleton's not the same guy. Kwiatkowski's not the same guy. So Devin Lloyd, I mean, anybody who watches Utah knows that this guy is, he's most classes linebacker 1. It's just that Nakobe Dean's such a freak. Lloyd being the number 2 is fantastic. I mean, also such an athletic guy that it's like he just bursts into wherever he needs to be. He's everywhere for Utah, and I'd love to have that kind of like an elite defensive playmaker for a team like the Raiders and keep that defense at an elite level. So I'll go Devin Lloyd here for the Raiders.
Yeah, that's a good one. Moving on to Arizona. I was kind of grappling with different discussions, different choices here, but I think I'm going to choose Trayvon Walker with Georgia. I look at, from a refinement standpoint, they still got some work to do. But, you look at the physical potential that's there. It is through the roof. This guy has insanely long arms. He's explosive. He can generate elite levels of power at the contact point. You'll see him just blast guys, and it doesn't look like he's trying. But, he plays the game at a different level of strength and power than other guys. 6'5", 275, can go out. He's athletic enough to go out to 5 tech on the edge. But, he can also shade it into 3 tech next to Corey Peters or whoever they have at nose tackle next year. And, he can move around a little bit. So having him on that line with J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, his long-term future is uncertain too. So I want to get a top-end talent at the edge, be able to move him around a little bit, maybe shade Zayvon Collins and Isaiah Simmons to the edge. You can do what you want. You can be creative with it. I think Trayvon Walker just kind of magnifies that for the Cardinals defense.
Interesting that you guys have him at defensive tackle.
Yeah, we were actually having a discussion about changing that to edge. I think we're going to do that in the next meeting. I was just thinking, my stance was, maybe put 10 to 15 pounds on him, put him at 3 tech at the next level. That was my stance before I'd watched more of him. But now that I've seen more of him, I think putting him at edge is the better call. So we're going to change that. We're going to change that to edge. That was something that we thought about, and we're going to make a change there. It's needed.
All right, number 25, Bengals. I'm tempted to go offensive line here because, they still need help. Their offensive line's actually not been horrible this year. They've honestly been close to, a top 20 unit. They've not been horrific.
Interior. I think interior is a great way to do it here.
They could, except I'm not going offensive line.
Okay.
Because Sauce Gardner is still available.
Oh, yeah.
First off, Cincinnati. Second off, you lost Willie Jackson, so you don't really have that true number 1 corner anymore. I think their number 1 corner is Eli Apple.
Chidobe Awuzie.
Oh yeah, Awuzie.
He had a pretty nice year actually, so they have him at least.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan in regard to this. I just don't think he's right. I just Sauce is Sauce, right?
Either way, you need 2 corners now.
Yeah, and besides that, Ahmad Gardner might be the best man corner in football, college football. The dude, he never let up a touchdown at Cincinnati, and that's really, really impressive. To play that many years and then not give a single touchdown, it's just really fantastic. Beyond that, he's on the same level as a guy like, Derek Stingley for me. And especially at 25 is such a huge steal. There's a lot of big steals right now, but this might be the biggest one of the draft because I legitimately think that Ahmad Gardner is probably a top 10 prospect. So for a team like the Bengals where maybe offensive line, again, the correct pick, Sauce is just such a fantastic player to take at that point that I'd love it for Cincinnati. So I have them taking Gardner. Number 26, the Bills. Honestly, I might consider taking Kenneth Walker here, but Devin Singletary, especially at the end of the year, actually had a nice year. So I don't think that's the biggest thing right now. Honestly, I'm kind of considering Kenyon Green because they need some help on the interior, and he could play either guard spot really. Otherwise, you can still try to go for that defensive line. Jordan Davis would fit their profile really nicely of just looking for those big guys. We know Jordan Davis is a monster of a human being. Corner also with Kyrie Elam still being on the board, Roger McCreary still on the board, Darion Kendrick, Trent McDuffie, Kyler Gordon. There's a lot of great corners still on the board for a team that doesn't, besides Tre'Davious White, doesn't have really many great corners. But I'm gonna go Jordan Davis here. I think he's worth the pick. I think he's worth the pick.
I was hoping you get to the Cowboys, man. I was hoping.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, although I do like him in a 3-4 system, definitely can also work in a 4-3. And like you said earlier, Ian, just one of those guys where he can really clog up the lanes and take that attention. And if that's at the end of the day what you need him to do for guys like AJ Epinesa, if he ever actually gets to play, Greg Rousseau, to go and do their thing, great. But on the other hand, maybe Jordan Davis goes in there and becomes the best lineman on a team that doesn't have like a star defensive lineman. Either way, I think it works out pretty well for the Bills here, who, when you're so close to being a Super Bowl competitor, I mean, I'd prefer just going for the talent at that point over need necessarily, because you don't truly have that many needs. So I like Jordan Davis here to the Bills.
Yeah, I think the best fit for him is the 3-4, the tight fronts where you can put him with 0 or 1 tech for sure. But, I think for the Bills, if you do get him, maybe employ a little bit more of that, because that allows him to kind of two gap and hold the center. And, once you do that, maybe move Ed Oliver out to 3-4 end. I think maybe he fits a little bit better there. So you see it maybe having Jordan Davis next to him, taking up that space, can allow Ed Oliver to get some more one-on-ones and maybe kind of take that leap. So, it's one of those things where, get the talented player and figure out how to use him later, figure out how to incubate his development. So, I can see it, but if you're the Bills, I think you got it. Like, I think the 3-4, the odd front is a little bit better for him. So that's just me though. Wherever you get him, he fulfills his role very well. He's an absolute space eater who has some pass rushing potential too for his size, which is pretty impressive. So he's a fun player. Moved to the Lions at 27. Who did I pick? I picked Aiden Hutchinson the first time. We're going to go quarterback here. I think.
Sam Howell?
Maybe. Nah, I mean, Jared Goff is, we can establish this right now. He's not the long-term answer at all. And I think this year proved that. But I do think he's good enough to be a bridge quarterback next year. And so when I look at the guys left on the board, I like Sam Howell, but I have Malik Willis a little bit higher. And here's why. I think that Malik Willis, you give him an opportunity to learn behind a bridge quarterback, acclimate himself to the NFL game. I think his ceiling is head and shoulders above Sam Howell's. You look at his athleticism. Sam Howell's a running threat, but I don't think he's an elite athlete. He's more of that tough runner, but I don't expect him to test particularly well. He's not going to test bad, but I just think, there's a certain X factor component of athleticism that you look for some guys, and you're not going to penalize a quarterback if he's not an elite athlete, right? But you are going to give them a bonus if they are, and I think that Malik Willis has that bonus that Howell doesn't. With his ability to evade guys and explode an open field and really be agile in the pocket and create for himself. So, and then the arm talent too. I think Willis has a little bit better arm. He's definitely got a lower floor, but with the Lions, you have that opportunity to sit, learn behind Jared Goff, and year 2, that's your opportunity to take him in stride. So I'm going to go with Malik Willis here, get a very talented quarterback to develop, and hopefully he can be an X factor for you down the line.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, for me, Malik Willis is just someone that I don't think he works out unless he goes to the right situation. It was the same thing with Justin Fields for me. Where I just don't think that he's going to turn into a great quarterback unless they get some good weapons and a good offensive line and a good head coach. And the Lions, I mean, yeah, Dan Campbell's a great motivator, but he's not like a great coach, right? He's not this excellent play caller. He doesn't develop guys great. I mean, who knows? He's year 1 in. But, the Lions, they don't have weapons to throw to. Their offensive line's good, but, it's the Lions. And so that's just why, I get the pick, right? He is a quarterback with a very high ceiling. I just think he needs the right system, though. And so, the pick makes sense. It's something I could totally see happening. I just don't think it would work out, though, just with it being the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, situation is everything for every quarterback, right? I mean, you look at Mac Jones, one of the Patriots. Would he have had the same production if he'd gone to the Jaguars or the Jets? Probably not. So it's one of those things where situation is everything, and you can look at other guys who are maybe a little bit more raw than you expect, and they end up going on to have good careers. So it is very, very important. And I look at the Lions, and I think like with any situation, you're going to have kind of an acclimation period for Malik Willis, and if he goes to a bad situation, it's very likely that he doesn't work out, right? But with the Lions, at least you have that time to grow. You have a good offensive line. You got a building receiving corps with Amon-Ra St. Brown with some other guys, and I imagine they'll add at least one or two in the draft and free agency. So
yeah,
they're going to be building up there. I think it's one of the better situations, especially it depends on what they do at offensive coordinator, but I think it'll be pretty. I think they can upgrade from Anthony Lynn, so I'm optimistic there. I think that Malik Willis, if he has time and he has good support, that's the best case scenario for him, and you can get his talent to kind of shine through. So that's kind of what I'm hoping there. But I do like the upside more than Howell, and so that's enough for me to take him over them.
Yeah.
But moving on to the Cowboys here, because I know we're already bending the rules of the rapid fire thing, but I think
it's what we do.
It's what we do, man. It's just what we do. I was really set on Jordan Davis. You threw me for a loop here. I'm not going to lie. I think, because, here's the thing. They moved to a 3-4 under Dan. Not a true, they do some hybrid stuff there. But, with Dan Quinn, they were using more. I remember they were 4-3 back with, Mike Nolan and other guys. But they moved it to 3-4. Had Quentin Bohanna at the nose this past year. And you can definitely upgrade. Jordan Davis is a big upgrade from that. So yeah. I don't think there's any nose tackles worth taking anymore. Like Travis Jones, an interesting one on day 2, but
the disrespect to Zachary Carter.
Is what about being a nose tackler? What are you talking about?
No, it's more of a joke. But Zachary Carter, though, he's solid.
Oh, like the Florida guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a nose tackle, though. I mean, he's not.
No, I know. I'm joking about it.
Okay, yeah, I'm not going to have 2 gap or anything. But yeah, I mean, shoot. I don't really. So you could go defensive tackle. I still think they could use some more help at 3-tech, too, with Neville Gallimore not quite catching on yet. They do have Osa, though. Osa Digizua. That was one of my guys, man. I was so happy to see him break out.
Yeah, you were great this year.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, and the center depth is absolutely atrocious this year with everyone going back. I think I'm just gonna go. This was a pick I made in one of my mock drafts earlier in the year, and this is the absolute chaos pick. But I'm gonna go Treylon Burks, man.
Treylon Burks.
Send it. Treylon Burks with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Cedric Wilson breaking out. That is a ferocious. I would not want to line up against that receiving core. You got those guys drawing all the attention, so you can. It'll be very easy for you to scheme touches for Treylon Burks. Who that's what you have to do for him. He's not going to create with his route running, and that's why I have him a little bit lower than some of the fantasy guys with him wide receiver 1. I understand it because the athletic potential is through the roof here. But, I think you got to scheme him separation and scheme him touches a lot. But, if you're the Cowboys, you have the infrastructure to do that. So I really like the fit. I think the sky's the limit with this one.
Yeah, I mean, that's a scary offense. Yeah, and why not? They're a team that could go win the Super Bowl this year. So yeah. Chiefs at 29. Receiver is tempting here. I really like the idea of a Jahan Dotson on the Chiefs. I think that's a pretty cool idea. Just because outside of Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, they just don't have much at receiver. I think you also got to definitely look, defense, especially defensive line. Maybe also safety as well. There's been some talks about Tyrann Mathieu potentially being gone and stuff. But I really like the idea of say a Jermaine Johnson to the Chiefs or a Myjon Sanders. I think sounds pretty cool. I'm kind of leaning between 2 guys here, though, and it's probably going to be surprising to hear, right? But we're here to get weird with mock drafts. And, again, you're probably going to say, what? But Cameron Thomas out of San Diego State and Michael Clemens out of Texas A&M.
Michael Clemens, I can't see that, but I can see Cameron Thomas. I was actually looking at him, and I was like, I wonder if you're going to say Cameron Thomas. He is. We have him a little bit lower, but I know Ali has his scouting report in the queue coming up soon, and I'm anxious to get more of him. I know it's a deep edge class, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. When you look at the Chiefs, they like bigger edge rushers. I could see that as being a fit.
Yeah, so I'm pretty high on both these guys compared to most people. I actually have them listed in interior because I actually think that, in most NFL teams, they're going to work better as more, like 3-4 DEs or, 4-3, potentially defensive tackles, but, more of that interior role for these guys. And I think, like you said, the Chiefs, they like their big guys. And honestly, I just think the idea of like having Chris Jones right next to Cameron Thomas, I really like that. I'm really high on Cameron Thomas, so I'm going to go with him 29 to the Chiefs.
Boom, there you go. And yeah, that's something I want to reiterate because I know a lot of people use the mock sim. Like, don't just go by our rankings because, it's all subjective. It all is. Like, it's not the gospel. So as much, we put work into it and we make sure that we scrutinize. But at the end of the day, if you like a player higher and you think that he should go higher, then by all means do it, right? So, and I think that's going to play into my Packers pick. I've already decided that's going to play into it. But before we get to that, and Julian might know who I'm going to pick there. He might be keyed into that. But I'm going to go with the Buccaneers first. And I think that, looking at who's left on the board, who is left on the board? I don't even know. I haven't paid attention. Holy crap. We got a lot of interesting ones here. So I'm going to go with Dax Hill, man. That's a fun one. I think adding him to that athletic, you look at Sean Murphy, Bunting, Jamel Dean, you got a lot of athleticism in that secondary. And I think that adding Dax Hill, there's a ton of versatility there. You can move him to safety, two high, single high, put him in the slot. He's fluid, physical, super explosive. Upside is through the roof for this guy. I think he's an X factor in the secondary. And I know I've said that 10 times over this video, so the value of that term has kind of been diluted. But, Daxton Hill is legit. He's a difference maker. He's got insane athleticism, versatility. It's all there. And if you're the Buccaneers, kind of a glue guy to add to your secondary, Daxton Hill's it. I'm a big fan of him. He's the top 15 guy for me, actually, so I'm very high on him.
Yeah. I think him next to Antoine Winfield, great duo.
Yeah, that would be so fun, man. So fun.
So here at 31, I'm sorry, I'm not leaving Matt Ariza out of this video, so I'm gonna go Matt Ariza here. No, that'd be awesome though. Punter round one, he's worth it. But no, 31 though, the Titans, it's a pretty easy pick for me here. There are some great guys still left on the board. Like they could honestly maybe use a guy like Kenyon Green, just because like they've lost a few offensive linemen. Their corner room's still not spectacular, so maybe they take a Kyrie Elam, right? There's still a lot of great players on the board. But they're losing a lot of linebackers to free agency. And, we talked about this before we started recording. Chad Muma is just that guy. I'm going Chad Muma. I think he'd be a great fit here for the Titans. I really love him just as a player overall. Dude, again, just one of those guys where he's just everywhere. He's not quite the same athletic freak that like Nakobe Dean or Devin Lloyd are necessarily, but Chad Muma still has some very high potential in him. I think he would fit this Tennessee defense really nice, and I just really like that pick overall.
Yeah, and I think he's still very explosive too. He's just like
he's still explosive.
Yeah.
Like he's just like I said, just not that same like athlete to me as like a Dean or a Lloyd, but yeah, the dude's still explosive. He's still a first round linebacker for me. So
yeah, and I could see because of instincts and processing, I could see you liking him more than Christian Harris. So Harris kind of came on late in the year, but still, I mean, this linebacker class it's a little more subjective than we're used to seeing. So whatever you guys prefer, like it's kind of a pick your poison type deal. So final pick in round one of this mock draft. Well, I think we're only gonna do one round because we're already over.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We're already over now. That's what happens when you get two draft analysts in a video. They talk and talk and talk, and it's a curse, right? But it's a blessing too. So final pick, Packers, and I'm gonna go back to my mantra, which is you use these mock draft simulators, right? Pay attention to the rankings, but if you like a guy, then don't be afraid to take him earlier than he's listed, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's subjective. And I'm going to take my guy, Texas Tech wide receiver Eric Ezukanma.
There you go.
Listed at 97 in the mock draft simulator. And that's, again, remember we were talking about the gamification. We talk about what the buzz is for guys, where we feel like they're going to go. Right now, the buzz for Ezukanma kind of feels like a fringe day 2, day 3 pick. Like,
which is awful.
It's awful, man. Like, seriously, like, I look at this guy. If you guys don't know Eric Ezukan on Texas Tech, get him on your radar right now. Watch him, because the upside is through the roof with this guy. You know, there's still some things to clean up. You know, I went back and watched him. There were some focus drops that were kind of, especially against contact, right? But I do think overall he has strong hands. And then you look at the rest of it, the framework for this guy. 6'3", 220. He's got insane levers for arms. Might have 33 or 34-inch arms when it all comes down. He's really long, and it shows up in contested situations. He can really box out and outreach guys. He's got great instincts and body control. But then closer to the line too, I think he's shown some releases. He can expand his release package too. That's another thing. But he's very explosive off the line. And then if you get him in space, if you get him in ball as a run after catch threat, man, this guy's electric. Very good lateral agility. Elite contact balance. He can bounce off of guys like Debo Samuel out there. So I'm a big fan of this guy. I think that the athletic testing is going to open some eyes for him. The production was never quite there, but you look at the Texas Tech offense, and it really didn't help him out. They really misutilized him, and bad quarterback play for a large majority of this year kind of impacted him too. So I think Ezukanma is a big sleeper. I don't think he goes first round at the end of the day. But if we're doing kind of what we feel, you know, where guys should be valued, then Ezukanma is my guy. I'll pound the table for him. I'll stand on that hill. He's a top 35 player for me, so he's very highly rated on my board. Upside is through the roof. And, you know, the Packers, they love those bigger receivers. They like to have their guys a little bit bigger. I think that Ezukanma has the size. He's got that 3-level ability, and I'm a big fan of his. I think he's going to open a lot of eyes come 2022, 2023.
You know, admittingly, I thought you were going to go Wan'Dale there for a second. I was kind of highlighting him. I was like, oh, he's talking about a receiver. Is it Wan'Dale, though? And I was like, oh, but Eric. But I thought you were going to Wan'Dale. But, yeah, Eric is great, though. He's definitely one of those guys where it's like you got to know about him if you know anything about this draft cycle. But, yeah, it's like, unfortunately, he's not going to go round 1. But really, you know, he's my receiver 9. Right. And it's like, I wish I could have him higher than that because, like, I truly just love a lot of the receivers in this class. Really quickly, I want to talk about one guy just because I need to get this out there. Dejon Dixon, Nichols Colonels. Dude, people need to know about this guy. I just don't like. I feel like he might be one of those guys where come draft time, people might start talking about it a bit more. I just want to bring him up because he's not going to go first round. And he shouldn't go first round, but this guy's a guy. But keep your eyes on him, though. But that is going to be the first round, though, for our mock draft.
Draft analysis is, real quick, draft analysis it's interesting, right? Because I know, you know, and I'm high on Dejon Dixon, too. Like, don't get me wrong. I think that he's, you know, for me, he's an early day 3. But I really like him. I love the upside. He's shown he can actually sink his hips on routes, too, for his athletic mold, being 6'4", over 200. So, you know, I like him, too, but there's a lot of lessons that come with draft analysis too. And you know this. We all know this if we've ever been through the process. There's guys that you're really high on, and it turns out they just don't catch sometimes, right? So you got to go back and circle back and figure out why. So, you know, like, I'd love to sit here and say, and it could happen with Ezukanma too, as much as it pains me to admit it, right? Like, we're saying, like, hey, this guy's got first-round upside, and then he goes, like, late day 3 and then fizzles out in 2 years. Like, okay, what happened there, right? So you never quite understand what's going on, the full picture. You know, no one has the full picture, but, you know, you like to think if you put in the time, you watch, you know, you get a good idea of where these guys are at. And I agree with you about Dixon. You know, I do think that he's a little underrated right now. So hopefully he gets some more buzz, man, because I think, especially when he tests, his athletic testing, he's explosive, he's agile. You know, I think that's going to help him out a lot. So we'll see. You know, get that name on your radar too, guys, because he might be a sleeper. But again, like I said, you know, it's so uncertain. We just don't know. But that's the fun part of it too. You know, we're all figuring it out together.
Yeah, that guy for me last year was Dylan Moses. Even, you know, when he went undrafted, I was still saying, like, and I still honestly think that maybe he can. That, like, if he was given an opportunity, he could be, because, like, he is a fantastic athlete and stuff, but just playing with that injury really screwed him up in the end, and it shouldn't have, because he still played pretty good even when hurt. But yeah, that's just part of the fun of it, though. But it's also really fun to have Ian joining the video for us, though. Really cool guy. Go check out his stuff. I mean, he's on Twitter and everything, writes for PFN. The mock draft that we're using is from PFN, but a very smart guy, so go check him out. But that is going to be the video, though. Thank you so much for hopping on the video with me, Ian. Look forward to doing this again with you sometime in the future. You'll probably be on some of my positional rankings that are coming soon, and any more mock drafts in the future. So it was great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I'm always appreciating the chance to chop it up and make fun of your rankings. So, anytime, man. I always appreciate it.
I'm not the guy that has booth number 1, all right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, trust what you see at the end of the day, no matter who you are, right? I don't make fun of his rankings. Don't get me wrong.
And I don't make fun of Ian's either. I mean, at the end of the day, we all have our own opinions, and there's no need to attack others for it unless it's that stupid, like not having Matt Ariza as a first rounder.
Exactly, right. Exactly.
Yeah. So.
And Ali's made fun of me for that multiple times, not PFN chat, so that's just the way it is.
Yeah. But either way, though, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.